Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now November 27th of 2023, and given that the Marvels is showing absolutely no sign of a rebound or any kind of course correct for their box office results, and everything happening behind the scenes within Disney and Marvel Studios being run by Kevin Feige, we know that those that are attached to this movie, such as director Nia DaCosta, and let's not forget about Brie Larson, have been heavily and endlessly defending this film to no end like there's no tomorrow, and really pointing the finger at the toxic male demographic, the same exact thing that they like to say like a broken record. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, we talked about this a couple of days ago that Brie Larson's overall role at Disney/Marvel Studios is not looking bright at all. She has been fired from several MCU projects. This ranged from Deadpool 3 to Fantastic Four to Ms. Marvel Season 2 and a whole lot of other projects on the horizon that were supposed to include her as a cameo of Captain Marvel, some of which were supposed to actually implant her as a main role, such as Avengers Secret Wars and the Kang Dynasty, which by the way is getting completely reworked right now. But what's interesting about all of this has a lot to do with Brie Larson's stance against the overall criticism about the Marvels and its impact on her career, specifically within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because as you all know, the MCU is the backbone to Brie Larson's acting career. There's no doubt about that. Without that, she's only running Nissan commercials pretty much. Now, with the Marvels getting worse results at the box office every single day, one major development has to do with Brie Larson's status at Disney and the MCU, where she recently delivered the following to everyone after her firing from over 90% of Marvel projects by Disney. As an actress, I think the biggest challenge I have been dealing with for several years now are toxic fandoms. And it's not just me, but it's others out there too. And it's not just limited to brands like Marvel and Star Wars, it stretches past that. What's even more sickening is how these toxic fandoms encourage other major studios to make the decisions of their future with what they are trying to build, and it's all based on nonsense. We have noticed the criticism for the Marvels. There is no way that we can lie about not seeing that online or in the media outlets. But what I can say is that it's a minority, and something that should have no impact on those trying to run the Marvel brand and expand it the best that they can. Many keep asking me if I'm coming back, and I really have no comment on that right now. I don't think anyone really deserves to know about that just yet. I mean, sure, there is definitely something there for Captain Marvel. I talked things over with Kevin Feige, and there is something to be explored, so who knows, we will see. But what's even more offensive is how the toxic male demographic, there she goes again by the way, can make a studio or multiple studios to become standoffish with their talents, be it an actor or actress. One thing I will admit is that I did have more extensive plans at Marvel for Captain Marvel's future, and this is being greatly adjusted right now, something I also have no comment on at this time. Now guys, let me just stop here quick. The reason why Brie Larson has no comment on the adjustments over at Marvel and her getting excluded from all of these projects has a lot to do with her overall ego. It has to do with how self-absorbed she really is as an actress and how she really has pretty much put herself quite up the list as one of the insufferable actresses in Hollywood. We know that there's a lot of them out there, and they are growing by the number year by year. And Brie Larson, to me, is almost like the original, right? She really was the one that kind of kickstarted this whole, trend of these insufferable actresses, especially mainly within Disney. Now, when you look at stuff like this, the fact that Brie Larson is getting obviously very bitter and very much, against the overall criticism of the Marvels and the current status of the Marvel Cinematic Universe being run by Kevin Feige. Let me say one thing about Feige, is that he really has no clue what he is doing with the MCU right now. And I mentioned this a couple of days ago, actually, that Fantastic Four is like their golden goose, because it has never been touched yet. It's something that has really not, quite frankly, performed very well at all in any live-action case. I mean, the 2005 film, sure, it was a fun, cheesy movie, kinda, but it really wasn't something that you would look back on as a big classic in the superhero franchise, right? So, we've never really had a true successful Fantastic Four film. They had a golden opportunity here, and Kevin Feige is already ruining it. We know that they are moving forward and doubling down on their usage of DEI in Fantastic Four, even worse than the Blade movie, mind you, so that is enough to tell you that it's going to be a disaster. Things like gender swapping the Silver Surfer and making this very much a Sue Storm and Silver Surfer centric movie instead of Reed Richards and Thing, as well as, you know, the Human Torch. They want to focus on the females instead of the males. And this is exactly why I say, whenever Disney says equality, it's quite the reverse. It's really more, you know, shifting away from the male characters and focusing more on the female characters. It's never about adjusting things properly and balancing things out the right way. Moving on, though, however, she goes on to conclude, I have had the pleasure to work with Nia, as in Nia DaCosta, on this fantastic feature. She's simply the best director I have worked with, and she has been going through a similar thing that I have been with these hard-to-work with fandoms that seemingly have the power to encourage studios to make the wrong decisions. I'm just happy that Kevin is expanding and deciding to turn Marvel into a more diverse, driven brand that supports equality to its best way to please the fans, that respect the lore and the changes coming for the Marvel Universe. Those that are all for equality will be pleased to hear that Kevin has to announce something very special early next year. I think many around the world are going to be honored, and I personally cannot wait to see that response. Kevin doesn't try to cater to loud minorities, because he has a goal that he is focused on, and that's his only thing that he is determined to complete right now, and I'm all for it. Now guys, about that announcement that Brie is teasing that Kevin is going to demonstrate early next year, it has to do with Blade and Fantastic Four. Roughly right around the middle to end of January, so we'll cover all of this once that arrives, but it is going to have a lot to do with new plot details about those two films. It's going to have a lot to do with some new images getting shared for the Blade movie specifically. And as for Fantastic Four, it's going to also have a lot to do with more announcements related to the production of the film. Now again, both of those movies are not arriving until 2025. They were supposed to arrive a little bit earlier, at least Blade was. And we know that there's a lot of things going on with the MCU right now. There is a big shift because of all the criticism, because of everything also that happened with SAG and the writer's strike that also played a role, but the main role here was by Bob Iger making that call to delay multiple MCU projects from 2024 to 2025 and beyond. Now, next year, the only title that we have is Deadpool 3, and let me tell you, if Deadpool 3 does not meet expectations, it's going to really put a bad image on Disney for next year. We already know that Ryan Reynolds had quite a hard time with Disney trying to convince them to film this movie in his home country, Canada. And that's where things got out of whack as well, because Disney was really against doing that in multiple cases. We'll talk more about that whole struggle also a little bit later. So overall, guys, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.